Well, hello again. Welcome back to the Green and White podcast brought to you by Argyle Life. Now, this is becoming a bit unusual for me as the host and for all of us as a team because this is no longer a therapy session. It's almost like we've gone through therapy and we're about to be given a certificate at the end of it to say that we're back to normal. Welcome along to the Green and White podcast, proudly brought to you by Argyle Life. As always, like, comment, subscribe, get involved in tonight's show. Joined by Graham, Finn and Adam. Now, many of you, I hope, will have watched last week and everybody will have almost certainly seen the clip from the Wycombe Wanderers game, or the Wycombe Wanderers preview, I should say, where one Sam Down of this parish and of many, many other celebrity famed appearances these days, it seems, made the statement that he was going to dye his hair green if we beat Wycombe Wanderers. Now, in midweek, lo and behold, we beat Wycombe Wanderers and Sam Down was on the show on Wednesday and confirmed that the hair dye had been ordered and would be here in time for the weekend's game. Now, as you can see, Sam Down is not amongst us. Sam Down is unavailable for tonight's show. However, I have a message from the wise one. He is very sorry that he can't make tonight's episode. I, for one, am delighted because I didn't want this to go on longer for an hour, and I can guarantee we'll probably keep it to 60 minutes now, so it's great news for me. However, he would like to confirm to everybody the hair dye has not only been ordered, it has arrived, and we, Argyle Life, will be publishing details in the week as to how you will be able to see Sam Down having his hair dyed at next weekend's trip to Doncaster. Now, I've no other details other than the fact it will be done at Doncaster. So if you're in a service station or you're in the gents' toilets at Doncaster next week, you might see Sam Down having his hair dyed. So just bear that in mind if you're trying not to bring up your breakfast or something next weekend. And all will be revealed on next week's show, but do keep an eye on our social media platforms through the week. Now, as I said, this is not a therapy session. It's another 1-0 win at Home Park. I've just noticed in the title of tonight's episode, Aaron will be excommunicated because he's actually put Plymouth Argyle 0, Rotherham United 1. So that's him out of any Christmas episodes. It is the other way round. It is back-to-back league wins. It is yet another 1-0 win. Graham Clark, it's the first home goal since the 18th of October, home to AFC Wimbledon. It is the first home win since Stockport, 4-1, all the way back at the start of September. What a relief that was yesterday.
It was, and just before I start, you'd failed to mention that TikTok had got the exclusive rights on Sam Down's hair dye.
Yes, there will be something done on TikTok. It won't be on our accounts. It will be done on TikTok somewhere.
Yeah, so many thousands of views later, no doubt. Yeah, in fact, can you remember the last player to score apart from Mr. Toloi at Home Park?
It's got to be like Caleb Watts, no?
No, it was Ibrahim.
It was in the Stockport game, was it?
In the Stockport game, yeah, Ibrahim. So, I mean, it's that long ago. It's 3 months, which is remarkable. I know we didn't play at home for 6 weeks, but anyway. Yeah, Argyle set up what's now become the familiar 4-4-1-1. And RALLS came in for Wiradoo, which was a bit of a surprise. Not that RALLS came in, but that Wiradoo was replaced. And Mumba came in for Patterson and played the role behind Aseni up top. And I have to say, the first 15 minutes was a game full of misplaced passes. I don't think either team got in each other's penalty area. It was abysmal. And I thought, oh, here we go. It's going to be one of those games. Then Holmes put over a header at the far post, which actually he had a clear header, could easily have gone in. And then we actually had a rare movement forward when Sorinola was played in down the left. It was a nice move. And then he just aimlessly chipped the ball over the goal, over the crossbar. And he thought, oh, we're not going to do very well here. But there was a moment, probably the only moment of Argyle magic on the day, when Rolls, in fact, just before Rolls played the ball to us, Mumba, he played a fantastic diagonal ball to Owen Dale on the right, which we thought, yeah, that was a ball of the game. But unfortunately, Owen Dale overhit the cross and Senny couldn't get on the end of it. Otherwise, that would have been a good goal. But it was the start of some forward movement, and the goal was Rolls picked the ball up in the halfway line, pushed it to Mumba, who actually controlled the ball and played a pass to a green shirt very effectively, to be fair, to Owen Dale, who was running down the right wing, who cut in a bit and then did a perfect cutback. And Joe Rolls, who made the run from the halfway line, got into the box, and from about 8 yards out, I thought rather cleverly finished. I think Charlie Price called it more of a tap-in, but he actually had to open his body up to push it past the keeper. And I mean, a great goal by the player who I thought had the best of the first half, apart from Joe Powell of Rotherham, the number 7, who not only took a fantastic corner left and right footed, had a fantastic shot that just missed the corner of the goal, and was to become the player of the second half. And the second half, well, it was the Alamo. It was all Rotherham, and probably one of the greatest defensive performances we've seen in recent years, reminiscent of Dan Scarr and Sonny Bradley and Alex Mitchell. And I think that the club have done a little clip of all his clearances during the game. I mean, how Rotherham didn't score, I have no idea. Hazard flapped at a couple. He actually made a really good save, double save from Ayres, but which was given offside. Then Mitchell somehow cleared the ball off the line when it looks as though it's going in from Ayres. Another cross from Powell to the far post, and I don't know if you've noticed, Galloway was grabbing Ayres' shirt, and the referee didn't give it. Blatant penalty, and Ayres, just because of the shirt pull, effectively put it in the side netting. And the only time we got forward in the second half was when Such, just when you thought he was going to run for the corner, decided to pass it to Aseni, who rather weakly shot at the keeper. Then we had 7 minutes of torture, and to be fair, I thought we actually managed that time pretty well. I did check, and I have double checked. The diagonal pass we referred to was Joe Rolls, and the pass to Owen Dale was Joe Rolls again, but Joe Rolls to Mumba to Owen Dale. Was it a great performance? No. But there was a lot of character, a lot of resilience, and obviously Mitchell was man of the match for his second half performance. Joe Rolls showed how clever a player is, always in space, always willing to receive the ball and give it quickly, could see a pass, wanted to move it forward. And an honourable mention for Brendan Galloway in his last game before he faces Mr. Salah. And Owen Dale, who I thought was tireless. And I mean, the second half when he sort of skidded off the pitch and got carpet burns on the artificial turf around, for a lone player, in fact, two of the best players were lone players. So, yeah, I mean, that's another clean sheet. Quite how, I don't know. But the luck was with us, you would have to say. But who cares? 1-0, we'll take it. I'm not sure we've totally turned the corner, but we're on the way round it.
Obviously, we're going to come to a lot of comments later on. I just want to pick this one out from Superintendent 8964 on YouTube. I can only assume he's talking about John, because he mentions the really articulate bloke who says a lot. You haven't seen him for weeks. That's quite true, because he is down in Australia and New Zealand for the winter. He is taking in as many days of cricket as he possibly can, whilst England are actually able to get onto the field of play. John will be back in the new year. I think he's probably the most relieved man in the world that Wigan Athletic is called off on the 10th of January, because I think he gets in the country not long before that game. So it gives him a time to acclimatise. Finn, Graham was talking there about it wasn't pretty. It was a gritty win. You know, how we kept the clean sheet is probably a little bit of a mystery. However, 7 weeks ago, we'd have given several vital organs to get 2 wins like we just have. It kind of feels, and I hope there are people who think that we're always negative. I'm certainly not going to be tonight. It kind of feels like, psychologically at least, the group are starting to maybe turn against the tide a little bit.
Yeah. For sure, I think. I think the influence that Derek Adams has had, probably talking to Tom Cleverley, is clear to see. To be honest, I mean, I'm not gonna sit there and say we're gonna go on a run similar to 17-18 where we nearly made the playoffs, because I'm not sure if the current way that we're playing is particularly sustainable, but we just need points at the moment, and certainly we looked a lot more resolute defensively in the last few games. Of course, the quality of opposition that we've played in the last few games haven't been up to the standard of earlier in the season. So we'll wait to see how much of an improvement there has actually been when we play someone better. However, the next 3 games are pretty crucial in terms of getting out of this relegation fight. I mean, if we can get 7 out of the next 9 points, for example, then we look, I mean, the quality of this division, I know everyone likes to say it every time, but honestly, the division's quality is so poor this season.
How many more games are we going to be that at home or in the stand at half time and go, crikey, this game is awful? It kind of felt like that felt on Saturday like the 5th home game in a row where at half time I was there and I thought, how on earth is this how on earth, frankly, yesterday in particular, how on earth is this a professional football match?
Yeah,
because at times neither team could string 2 passes together.
Well, I think at one point there was more missed kicks than shots on target. I counted. Yeah, it was genuinely quite frightening how bad the quality was. And to be fair to Tom Cleverley, it's the first time I've actually felt that he hasn't tried to. You said the same, basically, that he hasn't tried to insult our intelligence about how poor the game was. So yeah, like you said, like Graham said, I'm not sure if we turned a corner, but certainly, particularly with Plegasrelo back, he makes a big difference in defence. And I also think we've really from here, we've really got to mess it up to get relegated this season, because if you look at the fact we've got, I'm not as biggest fan compared to some others, but we've got Amici coming back, we've got Caleb Watts coming back. So even before we get to January, that there's obvious creative quality coming back into the side. So yeah, on that, a positive, but still that we're an awful football team. But the good thing is to see us winning against other awful football teams at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I went back to. We're grinding these results out that weeks ago we'd have simply just folded in. It wasn't too long ago we were going in games 0-0 at half time, like Northampton, and just completely losing our heads in the second half. Whereas we saw signs didn't we, against Bradford, that even though they scored, we responded reasonably well. I'm not going to bang the drum. Adam, yesterday's first half, as we've already alluded to, we will move on to the second half in due course because we probably need to hurry this conversation along. But it was around about the 35-minute mark, wasn't it? That the whole place just went extremely flat for a period, and then I think it was when Graham mentioned Argyle played that cross-field ball that Dale couldn't quite get onto, and it seemed to me there was a swell of enthusiasm from the Lyndhurst that filtered around the ground at that point. That, hang on a minute, at least we're trying to play through the lines. And then, to be fair to Argyle, for 5 or 6 minutes after that, we actually got the ball down and played football. I mean, I messaged you all in the group chat that I wasn't sure whether Rotherham were aware in the first half that we were able to play on grass rather than not in the air, because it was incredibly aerial that first 10, 15 minutes, Adam. But the way we grew into that first half, and essentially the best footballing move of the game was the goal.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about how momentum can impact a team, both good and bad. And it's a point that I know Graham's been banging the drum about in particular, and we've all noticed of just how crucial the first goal has been in pretty much the entirety of our season and beyond. You know, the games where we've fallen behind and got nothing, the games where we've gone ahead and looked like we can hold on. Yeah, and that was obviously a part of it. There was not a lot going on in that first half at all from anybody. It was, yeah, if it was a League Two game, it would not have looked out of place at all. In fact, that might be a bit unkind to League Two, considering what we saw. But from there, we started just to get a grip of the game. And I think that's for the second home game in a row, we've actually got a grip of it just before halftime, because I think there was a little swell in the Bradford game as well, where we didn't get the goal. And in this one, we did, and we used that momentum to great effect. You know, it was a very good move, which felt completely out of place with everything that we had seen for the entirety of that half to get where we were. But it was a great move, and it was really well worked from RALLS right at the start. Mumba's played a good role. Knowing Dale's put an excellent ball across. That's very well finished, as we described. Every single step of that was good, and it's something that we just haven't pulled out nearly enough for the entire campaign, and we saw it, and it got us the result, and that is the primary importance at this point. When you're in the relegation zone, you've got a move like that's actually good and get you a goal. You know, it's encouraging. It doesn't necessarily make us any, I was going to say, less lucky to win the 3 points, because they are bad. Rotherham, I'm talking about. They are a bad.
I mean, they lost 3-0 to. I didn't realise until last night they lost 3-0 to Blackpool at home.
They did. But before that, they're on a 9-game unbeaten run in the league. That's how weak this division is at the minute. The fact that we're 21st in it after what's happened is a lot to take in, I think. But it's a weak league. We've got a weak squad. We've got to do what we've got to do to get results. And yesterday was a part of that. It was a classic case, I think, of this game's going to be decided by either a mistake or a moment of quality. It is a cliche, but that's what we saw. There was one good move in that football match, and we scored from it. It's probably all you can ask for, to be honest, before we get into the second half. You know, the way we ended that and the way we went in with our tails up and this time got the goal. Good to see.
Yeah, I think I turned around to the people who sit behind me on about 20 minutes and I said, this is almost verging on first half substitutions. That's how ineffective I felt we were so early in and you could see, to be fair, for those that don't know, I sit pretty much in line with the away penalty area in the upper Mayflower. Tom Cleverley was getting visibly more and more and more frustrated with what he was seeing, because he said after the game, just skipping on to his post-match interview, he said after the game, we did the basics and fundamentals very well. Well, we didn't, because our passing at times was embarrassing for a professional football team. This is a free-for-all for the three of you. You can all have a say in this and then, bicker with each other or pick up on something maybe one of the other three doesn't. The second half, and I just want to give you the statistical side of that second half from an Argyle point of view. Attempted 116 passes in that second half yesterday. We completed 74 of them. We had 36 of those in our own half. We played 11 accurate long balls. We had only 4 touches in Rotherham's penalty area, of which 2 of those were shots. But this is the important thing. 7 tackles, 6 interceptions, 3 blocks, 31 clearances. And despite us going backwards from an already deep starting position, Connor Hazard only made 1 save. The second half yesterday was a riddle wrapped up in an enigma, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a reflection of everyone saying League One is poor. From the last time we were in it, it's gone very much more direct, very much more physical, and it's all about, or more about, the long ball, the challenge, winning first and second balls higher up the pitch. And Rotherham were the epitome of what League One has become. I mean, their substitutions seemed to get taller as each substitute came on, which is, I think, crikey. I mean, it was Ayres. I don't know how tall he was. He was about 6'7".
Well, they threw Sean Raggett on at the start of stoppage time, didn't they?
Yeah, I know. I thought either they had a growth spurt in the dugout. I don't know what happened, but they were certainly getting bigger and bigger, and they got more and more direct, which is all the more impressive, Alex Mitchell's performance, because it was heroic, and without him playing so effectively, we would have lost that game unquestionably. And to be fair to Tom Cleverley, I mean, he set up what is now become, since the 6-week period, he referred to substance over style, which followed the Wycombe FA Cup defeat. And we've had 2 banks of 4, and then either 2 up front or 1 behind the central striker. And we have looked defensively more secure. And then when it really got going, we actually went 5-4-1, which is almost just historic territory defensive setup. And as you said, for all the balls coming in, I think I forgot how many crosses they had. They had 12 corners, I know that. And every one of their corners taken by Joe Powell was decent. Came in with pace. I mean, he hit it left and right foot as well. So, I mean, I did look him up. He was playing for Burton. So, with him and Charlie Webster, funny enough, also at Burton, would be 2 players who've impressed me the most of the opposition. And just imagine Joe Powell in our team. He would make a big difference. So, Derek, if you're listening, have a sniff, because I think he's out of contract in the end of the summer. So
right,
it might be worth. He might have a 1-year extension or option, but he, to me, is the sort of player that would transform our forward attacking movement. And he's somebody I'd never heard of before, and he really impressed me. So just saying, but when you ever said the League One is poor, if you look at the teams who all played, they're all physical teams, with the exception of Cardiff, who play it on the ground, and Bolton, who play it with wingers and pace. It's turned into a physical league, and we are.
I think that's a trend across football, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's the same, similar in the Premiership, but we're not that well equipped. Thankfully, we got Alex Mitchell in fairly late in the day in the window. I mean, if we hadn't, I can't imagine what our defence would be looking like. And I mean, I know everyone says we should try and sign him. Well, we should try and sign him, because he is the Dan Scar and Sonny Bradley of our this season and next, for sure.
Do either of you two want to add anything else about the second half? Anything you observed or anything else?
I'm sorry, go on, Adam.
All right. Yeah. I'll hopefully with a quick. I mean, I think this is an example of how judging defenders solely on goals conceded is a bit of a fallacy, because the fact that these two guys in the centre of defence, Mitchell and Pleguezuelo, put in that performance yesterday, and indeed we did keep a clean sheet, but that clean sheet still had a lot to be said for Rotherham's finishing, which was dire. So many times they had an opening and didn't put it in. And that's just waves and waves of pressure. That's what it does. If two of those went in and we lose the game, that doesn't mean that Mitchell or Pleguezuelo were suddenly played badly, because they did everything possible to stop Rotherham scoring a goal. And yeah, it was successful, but that doesn't mean, say, in other games where we have conceded, oh, that must be the defence's fault because we're conceding so many. You know, we need to. I think it's a positive one for now, but it could easily be another situation where we lose a game and the knives are out for these defenders. And I think it's just take a moment to think, we could so easily have lost that game yesterday. I think Hugill heads over from 6 yards. There's a ball into the box, which, as we've said, could result in a penalty. You know, there's so much going on in that game where 2-3 goals go against us, we can hardly argue. But that doesn't mean that Mitchell or Pleguezuelo would have played badly. And I totally agree with what Graham said on Mitchell. He was a colossus yesterday in keeping them out, winning so much in the air. So many of those clearances you mentioned, Joe, in the second half were his, based on being right base. And of course, the goal line clearance, which is the most phenomenal of the lot. Connor Hazard's flapped at it, completely beaten, and he's come in heroically to get the ball off the line. So, you know, I just don't want to lose sight of it, because we could very easily have come into this having been defeated and defence has been beaten again. How do we stop it? But, you know, we're allowing ourselves to have pressure put upon us. And right now we've got the centre-backs who can deal with it. And I hope it carries on. And I hope we keep those clean sheets. But even if we don't, and realistically when we don't, because we're going to come against sides who finish a little bit better than Rotherham do, I hope we remember this, and I hope we remember how well these two have played together since they came into the side, and we cut them a bit of slack going forward, because Mitchell is the rock on which the entire side is built at this moment in time, and having Pleguezuelo alongside him is a huge boost. So let's keep that in mind. We've got a busy festive period to come. We may lose one, we may lose two, but this is a partnership that is doing brilliantly in these circumstances. Throw them all the support that we can.
Finn, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think I do want to say a couple of negatives on a couple of players, which is our pass completion, as aforementioned, was terrible yesterday, and Malachi Boateng has become like the new Darko Giabi for whatever reason. He keeps being picked, and I don't understand why. And I know that Sam has complained about Boateng quite a bit in the last few weeks. His passing range is, I'm sorry, Malachi, if you're listening, it's atrocious. Like the amount of times he gave the ball away yesterday, I think in a free, he's a workhorse, right? And he gets around the pitch quite well. So in a free, he'd be quite effective. In a flat two, you can't play him there. And I understand we don't have a lot of options, but I'd be going. Wiradu obviously at centre back has been poor himself this season, but in centre midfield in the last couple of games he's done okay. So I would for the foreseeable, to be honest, until we can get some improvements in and/or Ibrahim comes back, play RALLS and Wiradu. Assuming that RALLS can keep his fitness. And the other one is Connor Hazard at the minute, just flapping it. He didn't hold on to the ball once yesterday.
For a guy who was criticised when he first joined the club for being immobile and not moving for anything, he now seemingly comes and tries to punch everything.
Yeah, but it's not really even a punch a lot of times. It's a flap. And I don't understand what his... I mean, clearly it's a confidence thing. And, you know, I don't want to verify these rumours or not, but it's pretty widely understood that he asked to leave in the summer. I mean, he's not doing himself any favours at the minute. I wouldn't
It-
say he was awful.
Finn, it's a difficult one. You've had 4 clean sheets. It's very difficult to drop a goalkeeper when he's not conceding.
Absolutely,
But
and
the point I want to make, and you didn't have, maybe you're coming on, is his kicking. Because Luca has the ability to fairly pinpoint left or right foot, somebody on the touchline, or hit it long over a back 3 or back 4 who would play a high line. But Connor Hazard can't do that. And I think that's one of the reasons. If you look at the number of times he's cleared the ball, how many times it results in Argyle possession, it's very few. And that's why they do the tippy-tappy stuff. I mean, it was doing my head in second half because all Rotherham did would press up high. How we never conceded from it is beyond me, because then they do the suicide ball into the central midfielder running towards the goal, which is always what got Adam Randall into trouble quite often last season. So I would say I'd agree with you. Connor Hazard is one of the reasons why we're not keeping possession higher up the pitch.
Yeah,
what you're saying, Graham, about the very quickly, Finn, what you're saying about the tippy-tappy stuff, Graham, in the first half, there was a moment where we were knocking it around our own penalty box, and Jordan Hugel almost closed down one of the players, and they eventually got it off to Boateng, who then played it back to Mitchell, and then we kept knocking it about, and everybody around me and in little pockets of the ground were applauding it. And I sat there and I looked at it and I thought, hang on a minute, we picked up possession at the start of this attack on the halfway line. We've gone 30 yards back with the ball, almost given it up on the edge of our own box, and everybody's clapping about it. When we try and play out from the back, invariably, we just end up going backwards, which is quite an achievement given the ball starts at the back.
Because I was one of them for a long time, but oh my word. And it says a lot that his team is what, like 4th in the league or whatever. How much could we do with someone like Jordan Houghton at the moment, just to keep the recycling the ball and moving the ball forward? Because we do not have at the minute. Joe Rawls is a combative player who can pick a pass. Also, I think he's quality again if he can stay fit. However, because we only have 2 central midfielders, there is nobody else really able to take it upon themselves. So, the exit routes for particularly when we're playing up in the back are very few and far between, and that's where I would like. Okay, yeah, 4-4-2 is somewhat being functional and working at the moment, but I hope this isn't a long-term fix, because I don't see there's a particular amount of structure and actually identity at the moment. And I'm not going to go Sam down on it. I don't really care how we win the game, but all I'm saying is we could have like you said, if we didn't have Mitchell there yesterday, we could have very easily lost that game where, to be honest, neither side deserved to win that game because the quality was so poor. But Rotherham would have done if not for Alex Mitchell, essentially.
I think you've raised a really interesting point, Finn. A midfield 2 of Jordan Houghton and Joe Rawls would get me quite happy, to be perfectly honest with you. On the just very quickly before we move it on, because I don't think we need to talk about any individual players today, because I think we've all mentioned them in passing, and to be quite honest with you, I think it just turned into an Alex Mitchell love fest, quite rightly so as well, because as somebody mentioned earlier on, I can't remember whether it was you, Adam, or Graham, every time the ball came into the box and it was cleared away, there was just a running joke with all of us where I sit saying, Mitchell again. You can set your watch by him. I do just want to touch on, Graham alluded to it earlier, and that's the referee yesterday, who was the star of the show, whether or not he wanted to be or not. I thought on the main, his performance actually was fairly good, which is probably going to go against the contrary to what most people thought. There were several moments where he got things spot on. For example, booking both Joe Edwards and one of the other Argyle players for 2 pretty cynical fouls in the same decision. There was the brilliant advantage he played. Was it Rawls? Was it?
Edwards, yeah.
Yeah, the brilliant advantage he played for the Rotherham player who went down to the ground, then picked himself back up and carried on. And when Dale thought he'd been fouled, but I thought that was a brilliant advantage. There was, however, the incredible non-booking of the Rotherham player who practically tried to de-shirt Owen Aseni as he was trying to run through on goal. That was remarkable. The penalty that is missed, as Graham alludes to, I didn't see it at the time. I just assumed we'd seen the ball out. But when you see it slowed down, if that's at the other end, Tom Cleverley is having a hernia.
Especially
Like,
after the penalty against Bradford, where that's also a penalty, and he's going, well...
Yeah. I mean, Galloway has literally almost dislocated the guy's shoulder, pulling his arm back. I mean, it's incredible. And the linesman down on the Mayflower side was clueless most of the game, to be perfectly honest with you. But the best moment of it is, and this is the final point I'll make of it before we move on, is how he ended the game. So we're well over the 97 minutes, and Rotherham are still going. And Home Park wasn't whistling or booing. Home Park was visibly and audibly screaming for the full-time whistle. Pleggy and their centre forward tangle down by block 16 and the ball goes out of play. The linesman doesn't make a decision, neither does the referee. The Rotherham players are hurrying to get the game restarted. The Argyle players are circling the referee, pointing to the big screen. And this is wonderful theatre. The referee tells each and every one of them to go away, ushers them all away, so then he knows the eyes of the stadium are on him before the most theatrical blow of a full-time whistle I've ever seen. It's the sort of thing you'd expect to see in the Theatre Royal on stage. I mean, it was just, it was poetic, the way that David Rock ended yesterday's game. Fantastic theatre. Even though I did also think 7 minutes was probably incredibly lenient at the end of the game with the amount of time wasting we were put. I mean, Connor Hazard took about 90 seconds to take a goal kick at one point.
They also had two subs they brought on. They had 2 subs they brought on in added time.
Yeah, the one at the end was baffling. Why are you making a change with 2 minutes to go? You're wasting your own time.
Yeah.
Just very strange. Where do we stand very quickly? Because I know we don't know the ins and outs of it. This has just come into my head. Where do we stand on Connor Hazard going down twice yesterday to get treatment? The first one in particular was the most clear as day. Tom Cleverley was desperate to get instructions out onto the pitch. I don't like it as a football fan. And therefore, when it's we'd call it out if it was at the other end. We should probably call it out for what it was. I'm
less bothered about it. I think because we're desperate for wins at the minute, and clearly that's we talked earlier, touched on the fact that we haven't got the physical nature to our side, and sometimes we're gonna get bullied a bit for that. But so we've got to try and make up for it in another way. I agree, it's not the most gamesmanly way to do things. However, it's clearly something. It's basically very, 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 very indicative of a Derek Adams side.
I mean, it's everywhere in the game. To be fair, Adam, it's in the Premier League. It's in every league in the world now. It's in international football as well. But I don't like it.
It shouldn't happen. And the only reason it does is because of a loophole in the rules. It used to be a case of, somebody's going to go down, and it could be anybody to get treatment. And we said, okay, well, we've tried to combat that by saying you've got to take at least 30 seconds off the pitch. And everyone's now realised, that doesn't apply to the goalkeeper, so just get them to go down. It's, it's...
But I reckon they know, they know that the referees aren't going to pick up on that.
Yeah, of course. That's exactly the point. It's just because what can they do? Go to the keeper and say, are you actually injured? What am I going to say? Oh, yes, right. I'm not just going to. Do you know what? You've got me. Of course I wasn't. Let me play on the game. It is what it is, and I mean, I think it'd be very easy to introduce a rule that says, okay, well, if the keeper has to go down to get treatment, somebody else has to go off for 30 seconds just to stop it. But it's everywhere, isn't it? Laws are reactive. There was originally a loophole. Football's tried to close it. There's now clearly another one. football's got to close it again, and then teams will probably discover another one, and we'll have to fight that as well. But yeah, something's got to be done.
An incredibly harsh way to deal with it. Could they not look at a rule if the keeper goes down twice in the same half, he must be substituted?
Yeah, I was going to say the same. The problem was the second time he went down, he didn't notice that Owen Dale was down.
Yes.
So he didn't have to go down. His game awareness let him down there, I think.
I just wonder whether, because then the referee can say, well, you're clearly struggling, so I just want you off the pitch kind of thing. We saw it all those years ago, didn't we, in that infamous Wickham game that we'll never get out of our minds, when Barry Richardson, the goalkeeping coach, had to come on off the bench and Derek Adams, his Argyle side, couldn't score past him. I do wonder if they can look at that sort of rule. Or as Adam says, if the keeper does go down a second time and doesn't come off, then as VW Coco says, either they get a corner or the home captain, or whichever team it is, the captain has to nominate a player to go off for 30 seconds or something and cover the rule off that way. But that's an argument that Arsene Wenger and his IFAB friends all have to have in a luxury office suite somewhere in the hills of Switzerland at some point throughout the rest of the year. Anything else anybody wants to raise from yesterday's game before we move it on? Anything at all?
As somebody said about the note passing, second game in a row that Tom Cleverley's ripped a page of his overlarge notepad, which has caused both Joe Edwards and Joe Rawls a bit of a problem as to where to put the piece of paper. Joe stuck it in his socks and Joe Rawls put it in his shorts, which was rather amusing. He just didn't know what to do with it. He thought, I can't chuck it on the floor. I think it was to go 5-4-1, which I would have thought he could have communicated on the second of the Hazard sit-down breaks. But
yeah,
it's an unusual. If you could, perhaps you should get some yellow stickets or something.
Post-it notes.
Post-it notes. That's it. Post-it notes. Yeah, that would be far better, wouldn't it?
Also,
just going to say, if there's anyone that maybe John's watching at this moment in time who would know if we can send a message on yellow sandpaper. Anything like that might be useful.
I also thought it was fantastic yesterday. We finished the game with every contracted senior centre half on the pitch. I thought that was a fantastic show of unity for the defensive department yesterday. And I joked about it when the last one of them came on, and I just shouted out "Clev ball." And it didn't go down very well with the people I was sat with. Let's move it on then, because there's still 17, 18 minutes or so of the show I want to get through. Just some news from today. Unfortunately, it's not the news we all would have wanted. It was the next round of the Adobe Women's FA Cup. This was the opportunity for Marie Hurahan's side to get through to the next stage where WSL teams join the fray. Unfortunately, their old foes in Oxford, who very nearly beat them at home park in league action earlier in the year, they finally exacted their revenge. Argyle went down in a spirited effort after a red card in the game as well, by 2-1. It is Oxford who progress to the next round of the Women's FA Cup. It doesn't take away from what's already been a superb first half of the season for Marie's side. Of course, it would have been fantastic for them to get through and get that glamour tie. But it wasn't to be this year. But now they can fully focus on the National League Cup and also the rest of the league campaign, with a huge fixture coming up next weekend against Real Bedford at home park. And the same day, the league's top two, Watford and Bournemouth, play each other. So there is a real opportunity for Marie's side to either make up ground on both of them or even usurp Watford in the table. So that will be huge for the team. So do get along to home park. Details are available on the Argyle website. Pretty cheap admission. They've been getting some great crowds at home park as well. And they deserve every bit of support because they're having a monumental year. Tomorrow night, as well as the FA Youth Cup tie away at Watford. Of course, Tom Cleverley, Matt Bevins, who's on the coaching staff now, was Watford under-18s coach. They will have a huge inside information folder that I'm sure they'll be providing Jamie Lowry ahead of tomorrow night's tie. Massive opportunity for the academy team, who are not having the best of years, but they can turn their fortunes around with a cup run. We saw it. We've seen it so many times down the years in senior football, haven't we, that it kicks them into gear. That's that covered off. Now, next Saturday is another big game involving Argyle and a team around us in the division, because it is the very real possibility of getting out of the relegation zone for the first time in quite some time, because we travel to the Keepmoat Stadium to take on Doncaster Rovers in a game that is 20th versus 21st. A huge game before the Christmas period. Now, gents, we've already talked about, and we've said many times since this podcast restarted, that Christmas is the time to build up momentum. Well, it's back-to-back league wins to go into that Christmas week that is, what, 4 games in 11 days this year? Is my maths right?
26, that's 5,
26.
no, 9 days.
No, 4 games in 9 days. It's
9
even
days.
shorter than that. 4 games in 9 days, of which 3 of them are at home park. This is a very, very, very pivotal fixture that if we can, I'm not going to say a point is still not a great result. We need to be looking at it. But if you're going to drop points in any of the next 4, perhaps Saturday is the best one, because those 3 games at home, if we win them, we've seen it, Graham. Wycombe Wanderers, they went on a run. They're now 12th in the division, and they're not on a great run at the moment. So it doesn't take much to get you into a much more breathable position in the league, shall we say? And this is the best time to do it.
Yeah, and this is the last 3 games of that 10-game reference that Tom Cleverley made and Derek Adams made prior to the window. So it'd be interesting. I think for me, it's the 3 most pivotal games of the season. I know they're always going to be, but Doncaster are on a pretty poor run. I think they've only won 1 out of the last 6. They got a creditable performance at Cardiff, and was it, I think, a 99th minute winner Cardiff got to go top. So that's a creditable performance, somewhat better than we managed, one would have to say, against Cardiff. But they're a funny side, because the venerable Billy Sharp is still playing up to, I think he's 37, is he? I think he is. I
think he's 39 at this point.
Is he 39? I know.
Yeah, I know for a fact he's been the oldest player in the league.
Right.
Whether he's quite 39, I'm not sure, but I'd put a small amount of money on it.
Yeah, I mean, so although I don't think he came on a sub against Cardiff. We've got a sort of so-so record at the Keepmoat. I think we've won a couple in recent years, but lost a couple. It is our chance, and another 1-0 away, 2 banks to 4. But the big difference, of course, is Mr. Ty is back, who we are hoping will be raring to go.
Is this the first time that we will have a visible spine to our team all season? Yeah. I.e. Hazard, Mitchell, RALLS, Talai.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And we didn't give Joe RALLS too much of a mention, but you can see he's a championship level player in the way he creates space for himself. He's always available. But I don't, has he actually played with Talai many minutes? I'm not sure he has. But no, he's certainly capable of playing the ball over the top or down through the sides, which Tolly loves to run onto. So I'm quite optimistic that we'll see an even better away performance than we've endured over the last few games. I'll take 1-0, thank you very much, again. But it's a game we can win. If we win that, and we didn't really mention, there was a bit of a reunification with the crowd and the players yesterday, particularly the Devonport end, I felt were really the drum. I think it was 2 drummers, was it? I think 2 drummers really helped, and it's the first time for a while the crowd have really helped the team get over the line. So if we get a result, a win at Doncaster, then we got the 2 home games against hopefully a close to sellout crowd from Argyle fans. We can get a bit of momentum, and momentum's everything. And Finn, you referred to the 2017-18 season. Momentum happened. It was the Diagaraga. I think he played 15 league games and we got 29 points. And we had the famous change to 4-3-3 with Lemires, Taylor and Carey. If we can, I mean, for me, I think we've got to set up for 4-3-3. Tulai up top and a Sonny one side and either Owendale the other, or perhaps Barley Mumba. I think we could morph from our 2 banks of 4 into attacking 4-3-3 to be a bit more positive. Now we've got a bit of confidence behind us. Sorry, certainly at home. Yeah, absolutely.
And like I said about Boateng earlier, I think he'd be a useful player in a 4-3-3. It's a 4-4-2.
Yeah. And it's what underpinned Derek Adams' charge to the playoffs. Because I was actually looking, after 20 games in that year, we were 3 points worse off than we are now. So
you forget, Graham, as well, in that 4-3-3, there's the Amici's obviously getting back fit.
Yeah.
And Caleb Watts is literally a matter of weeks away. So
I if we can get that win against Doncaster, I mean, Caleb Watts won't be back until the games in the new year, but I genuinely feel we could get that momentum, and we'll be looking back at what we've tortured the last few months as a distant memory. But that's my half glass full moment for tonight.
I must say, I think if we're serious about getting out of this, we got to go and win on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's overused, but I think potentially it's a season-defining game, to be honest with you, because if we can get out of the relegation zone before Christmas, that's a massive psychological barrier to navigate.
It's also a massive barrier to overcome when you think, as mentioned, Caleb Watts is coming back to fitness. Xavier Amici is getting minutes to get back fit. You've obviously got Joe Rawls now integrated into the team. Jack McKenzie, if you can all remember who he is, he's also on the grass. Can you believe it? He's on the grass. Never quite got to the bottom of what that means. But, you know, there is a real semblance of the squad taking shape. And Del Boy is going to be working his magic in the transfer window as well in January with the £4.50 that we've got left. Adam, on the team for Saturday, assuming we're going to stick with 4-4-2, the glaring hole in the side now is left back, because obviously Brendan Galloway, as mentioned, is off to the Africa Cup of Nations. Very best of luck to him and the Zimbabwe team in that. The issue with solving the left back conundrum for this week, how do you go about it? Is it just as simple as moving Sorinola to left back, Mumba to left midfield, and Tulai to striker?
Probably, to be honest. I imagine we will try and have it.
Or do we do what every young manager and every young coaching staff do up and down the country and just overcomplicate everything?
I imagine we're going to try and keep this as simple as possible, for the reason that, well, for one, we've got Derek Adams on the case, and when he's found something that works, he will be hard pressed to get rid of it on a game-by-game basis. So that's one of them. But I think the way that we've set up, I can imagine we will be looking at this saying this could suit a game at Doncaster pretty well. They are the sort of team who will put as many crosses in as they possibly can. I think they've completed more than anybody in the league. So breaking up that central defensive pairing, if you like, would be nonsensical. And I imagine that would be the case, whoever we were playing, let alone a team who love to put the ball in the box. They also press very well, from what I've seen. So we really won't want to be passing it around the back. And I imagine we absolutely will not be passing it around the back. I think we'll see plenty of long balls into what may as well still be a front two. So with all of this in mind, you make as few changes as you possibly can. So the way to do it is almost certainly, yes, you put Sorinola at left back, you put Ballymumba on the wing, and you bring Lawrence Alai back in. Now, that is assuming there are no more enforced changes. And don't get me wrong, I love the optimism of the fact that Amici's coming back, that Watts is coming back, that Mackenzie may finally get his first start. This is great. But whenever we've had this in the past, someone else has then got ruled out for 3 months. All of this was happening before Bradley Ibrahim picked up his injury. So it's all still a bit whack-a-mole. It's all still a bit, changes are going to be enforced, particularly now when we've got, I'm almost certain, by the way, it is 4 games in 11 days rather than 9. Am I going mad here? Or because we've got the game on the 20th, Boxing Day, 28th or 29th, and New Year's, right? Right?
26th. Boxing
Yeah,
Day to 26th.
Yeah, 20th, 26th, 29th, and New Year's. That's 4 games, right?
No,
Yeah.
I think he was doing the 26th, the 29th, the 4th.
The first and the fourth.
First and the
I see. So
fourth,
you're
yeah.
not counting the pre-Christmas game. I'm with you now. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, even so, there's plenty of games coming up. So somebody's going to someone's going to get a knock at some stage, you can guarantee it. So right now, I think, just as few changes as you can possibly make, I'd suggest is probably the way to go. In an ideal world, I'd like to see us play a 4-3-3 at some stage, if nothing else, because it gets back the guy who've already mentioned and gets Lord McCabe a place in the team, who I think can.
Oh, by the way, why is he not in the squad?
Yeah, well,
It's bonkers. It's genuinely bonkers.
there we go.
Has anyone seen Law McCabe? That is our weekly.
I did not know I'd
campaign.
started something here, and I'm so sorry already. So forget I said anything about Lord McCabe. So yeah, I mean, the only other argument is that Tom Cleverley seems to see everybody as a left back, so Eamon Benarous could again find himself in the role, which means you don't have to change as much. But then, of course, you've got to find a way to get Talai in anyway, so it makes natural sense to do those changes. There's a few more that I'd like to see, but a few more that I think it'd be very much wishful thinking on my part to suspect that we'll see. And given how this is going, so 4-4-2, Sorinola left back, Mumba on the wing, Talai up front. I'm going to be shocked if it's anything different.
Finn, the only other bone of contention we've already talked about tonight is Wiradou or Boateng. I suggest that you're probably in the Wiradou camp rather than the Boateng camp. Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, are we looking at a situation here where Wiradou is going to play the away games and Boateng is going to play the home games because perhaps we're going to set up that little bit more defensive away from home?
Well, possibly, but like I said earlier, I just think that Malachi Boateng can't play the role that he's currently playing. I think, I mean, RALLS is basically playing for us because he has had injury problems, and I think obviously he's a slightly older player now. I get why he's trying to make up the legs with Boateng, but I mean, like I said, I don't think I really saw Malachi Boateng complete a pass yesterday, and that's a real problem. I mean, ball retention is something you need at any level. So, like I said, I don't think Brandon Wiradou is perhaps been that good this season, but I also think that actually centre mid is his position, and I believe when he came into the club, he said he preferred to play there. So play him there is my.
He's only played other than the Leyton Orient and the Wickham game. I think the only other game he's played there was actually the Barnsley game on the opening day, and he was hooked at half time, but that's only because of the own goal. It wasn't because of anything else in his performance. Gents, let's get a score prediction from you all if we can.
Just one thing about Wiradou.
Go on.
He was without a strapped wrist yesterday.
Yeah.
Neither wrist was strapped. So we've got a new man on our hands. That's what I want to
know. Another injury issue resolved up the physio department.
Yeah.
Let's get
for the record, I would play him ahead of Boateng.
Yeah, I think I probably would on the balance of what I saw at Wickham on Tuesday and what I saw yesterday. Let's get a score prediction off everybody then. Graham, you go first, and I'm not going to allow you to say if we score the first goal, we'll win.
I want to say it. If we score the first goal, we'll win 1-0.
Very good. Finn?
Oh, let's be positive and go 2-1 to Argyle. Till I double.
Yeah, to lie.
That means we're gonna concede. Adam?
I am going to go for a 1-1 draw, which, whilst not as optimistic, I don't think it would be anywhere near a disaster. I think it's something to keep the unbeaten run going, and it'll still serve us well for games to come.
Would you? Here's a question then. Would you accept a draw tomorrow, only providing it guaranteed victory on Boxing Day?
If we got 7 points out of 9, that's what I'd be happy with. So if it meant that we won the next 2 at home, then yeah.
If it meant we won the next one at home, what's that? 2 points per game? I'm not going to turn my nose up at that for sure.
It's the 19th best home record going up against the 11th best away record in the division on Saturday. So it's got home win written all over it, isn't it? No, I think it's going to be another gritty, tough performance. And I'm going to say we're going to edge it 1-0 again. We'll become a meme. We will become a meme, well, more than we already are. But I'll go with a 1-0 victory with that man to score again, of course. Right, let's rattle through some questions. Got a number of them starred here. And this is a topic that's been coming up in the comments quite regularly throughout the evening. Benny Van Life was the first one to ask it. Will we extend RALLS' contract in January? Because the thing is, nobody knows when in January the contract is up. It could be January the 1st, could be the 21st, could be the 31st. Yes is the answer. I can't imagine there'll be, if he wants it, there will be a contract on the table, surely.
Yep.
Yeah. There should be.
I just fear, ultimately, that he's going to fall into the too many Diagaraga, Andre Gray, and Kieran Agard pool of players who have won points for Plymouth Argyle and then departed, having to join as a free agent at the earliest possible opportunity. But I think it goes without saying that I hope that doesn't happen, and I hope he is here for a while, because when he's fit, he's clearly very talented.
Just to comment on Monster Green 79's comment about Boateng completing 27 of 35 passes. I think Finn was busy talking to people either side of him for the other 27 passes. He was only looking at the game for the 8 passes that Boateng misplaced. Let's take the next question from Shane Harris. People saying Derek Adams has been involved in training. Does anyone know if this is true? I'm only going off what the statement was when they announced he was in the building, that Derek would have no influence on the first team.
Yeah, but I'm not. Yeah, he might not be physically on the grass, but I mean, he's in Tom Cleverley's ear almost certainly.
But he's not doing a Neil Dewsnip communication from the director's box, is he? So he's not doing that.
No, there's no earpiece or anything.
No. I thought David Fox was looking at training. So to have Fox and Adams spend half their day looking at us training is, for me, a little bit worrying. And that, I think Derek's been at every game. With the transfer window coming up and he's got sole responsibility for recruitment, I would be hoping he would be looking at players in the flesh, as it were, and I would expect him not to be here. Just an observation.
I was just about to say, Graham, I would imagine that maybe the first couple of weeks he was spending the odd morning down at Harper's watching them train, but very much, if not from last week onwards, certainly from this week, he will either be in the office on the phone, on Zoom calls, or he will be somewhere on the motorway trying to speak to people. Because obviously we're now getting into that window where agents are really ramping up their promotional activity towards getting players out. Comment made earlier on from Andrew Thomas says, isn't the problem that we seem to struggle to compete with 6'5" opposing players and lose all second and third contacts/touches, as Graham stated, physicality? Yeah, I mean, Jordan Hugel won his fair share of aerial battles yesterday, fairly or unfairly. But he's the sort of striker we're going to have to look to get in, isn't he?
Yeah.
So preferably somebody who's a little bit better in front of goal and perhaps wasn't inflated with a £10 million transfer fee once in his career. But Finn,
it's going to be Derek Adams' priority. Somebody who 6'3", 4" up top. I mean, we thought Ben Peppel was sort of going to be that person, but he's injured and he's going to have to play himself back into some sort of form, if we can call it that. So we need somebody up top, and there aren't many, and it's the wrong time of year. I see Jatta's mentioned. I did hear we were in for Jatta in the summer, but I think he's got a 1 year extra on his contract, so that's going to be a significant fee.
And not only that, Notts County are flying in League Two.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he scored almost a goal a game since he's come back. So, he would be my obvious choice, but it may be out of our reach given the financial situation.
Finn, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I was going to say, and I don't know if this will be controversial, but if someone's sniffing around, I don't know why they would, unless they want to go for. If someone's looking for a left wing back in January, and someone in the lower end of the championship, and someone looked in for Barley Member, I'd take whatever we get for him, to be honest, and I'd use that money to reinvest it back into the squad, because he again was not very good. Yes, okay, he played the ball to Owen Dale, and that was a decent pass, but apart from that, again, was non-existent yesterday, and just looks a shell of his former self. And I think it would benefit both of us, both the player and him, if we just said, thanks for your service, but it's time, let's go.
I think his agent would be knocking on Mr. Schumacher's door, I would suspect.
They can have him, as far as I'm concerned.
No, they can't have him. They have to pay substantial fee for it.
Well, of course, if they pay the money, I mean, I wouldn't be disappointed to see him go.
They might be too busy trying to get a certain striker out of a North Wales Championship club to be focusing on a left wing back. Adam, let's come to you on the next one, and it's an interesting one. I don't think we really heard your thoughts on this. What does Wiradou give us that Boateng doesn't? Wiradou's passing and dribbling is worse for a start.
I'm not sure I necessarily agree that it is. I think Wiradou actually offers us a little bit more technically. His pass success is a little better this time, and I appreciate that that's kind of, the fact that he's played centre-back and made slightly easier passes has contributed to that. But I think in general, and I'm not going to pretend that Brendan Wiradou is a creative midfielder by any stretch, but Malachi Boateng definitely isn't. And that's not his style at all. And I just think we will gain a little in Wiradou's technicality and won't lose out too much in Boateng's physicality, because Wiradou can bring that as well, and has been known to involve himself in duels throughout his career, in my view. So I think he is just a little better on the ball than Boateng is. Possibly says more about the latter than the former, to be fair. He's a very agricultural midfielder, is our Malachi, and that can serve us well at times. But I don't know. And as I said before, I don't expect there to be a change in this week, and I think we'll try and keep it as samey and as familiar as we possibly can, and that will mean Boateng starting, which I don't hate, but I would prefer to see what we're doing there, certainly in this formation and what he offers. In an ideal world, as I say, it's 4-3-3 with Long McCabe at the base, but we can't all have what we want.
Last but not least, question: Owen Dale left yesterday with a possible injury. Do we know anything else? I can only assume this is when, as Graham said, he just kept sliding off the pitch and collided with the the pavement around the side of the ground on that far side. I felt so sorry for him because you could see about 10 yards off that he was going to make contact with it, and there was no way of stopping it. I guess that's all it was.
I hope so. And yeah, he had also by that stage, I think, run himself into the ground. He was tireless and had a great game. But by the standards of what we've seen. But yeah, he was tireless until the point that he eventually did tire quite dramatically and needed to come off. And yeah, hopefully it's all that. Little bit of fatigue, a little bit of a knock more than anything else, and back for the next one.
Should also be mentioned as well, I don't know if anybody else spotted it yesterday, when Joe Edwards came off, he had a very odd arm carry on his left side, like he was struggling with a shoulder or an upper arm injury.
Don't you remember he got whacked by Connor Hazard when Connor Hazard came out of the area, and he landed on his shoulder? So yeah, that could well be.
He looked in a little bit of discomfort. Yes, I'm not sure he was too happy when Pleggy patted him on his shoulder as he came off the pitch. But yeah. he definitely looked in a bit of discomfort. It should also be mentioned, whilst we've got another 60 seconds, just the influence he's having back out there as well.
Yeah,
that back line yesterday of Edwards, Pleggy, Mitchell and Galloway, just the experience in their heads more than however much of legs they've got left is so crucial. And with RALLS in front of them as well, that, you know, we had the transfer policy in the summer of we're going to sign players who only want to be here. Well, every player you sign wants to be here, so that's a bit of a folly thing, but experience is almost definitely going to have to be the way we go in January, just to get one or two more wiser heads in the group.
I hear there's a 33 or 34-year-old centre-back with over 50 caps for Iceland who may be available.
Frequent goal scorer at the moment for his nation, isn't he?
Yeah. Like I said, I think like we're gonna do very well badly, but we're gonna have to do very, very well to go down at this point. Because now we have the spine of that team. Like we basically, I know, you know, we were a bit lucky last night, but we look at the standard. You only have to put a couple of moves against half this division. You only have to put a couple of good moves together a game to win it. So, yeah, it's going to be a travesty if we go down.
And to be fair, we do have history in that argument because we did very well to go down in 2018-19.
Well, absolutely.
So right. Let's not count our chickens before they've hatched, because we have form.
I just put it on record now that if we were to do that, it would be a travesty.
Joe, just mention a couple of things. First of all, Connor Hazard's out of contract end of the season.
Yes.
So should anybody contemplate a purchase of him, I think most fans would welcome him and wish him well if Northern Ireland are going to qualify for the World Cup that nobody's going to watch.
Except if they play Wales in the final, then I won't be.
Yeah. And just
you Welsh fan, are you?
Yeah.
And just going back to where we started, Sam, Project 35 yesterday was the sponsor for the game. I know they had a substantial amount, I think 0.6 tons of food were donated and several thousands of pounds. I haven't done the final count yet, but of course Sam did say, until TikTok grabbed hold of the moment, that he would be doing it for Project 35. So if anybody does witness him on TikTok, please think about Project 35, because there are a lot of deserving families and children in deprived parts of Plymouth that would welcome a contribution.
Absolutely. And the one area I will never kick the football club in particularly in recent years, is their awareness of local charities and things that need the profile raising. If anybody from Argyle is watching, please, can we have another St. Luke's Day this year as well? I thought that was a tremendous success last year. And given that the Lyndhurst stand is the St. Luke's Hospice Lyndhurst stand, or whatever the official title is, then please can we have another St. Luke's Day? Because it is, I think there's a a horrible statistic that 1 in every 8, 9, 10 people in Plymouth are directly impacted by somebody who has to go through St Luke's in one way or another through life. So huge support, and Project 35 continues to be a tremendous success. Every time that Argyle put on a dedicated fixture, it does so well, and it just shows the generosity of the people of the region, because as we all know, this is not the most affluent city in the country, and therefore every little helps, particularly at times like these. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us tonight. As it was with my radio show on Thursday, I'm going to be a little bit selfish now, because this is the last time I will see everybody now until the festive period. We haven't quite worked out yet how we're going to do the Boxing Day 29th New Year's Day pod thing yet. I'm still trying to work that one out. But one thing I do know is this is my last pod before Christmas. So just want to wish everybody watching, all over 1,000 of you, all the gentlemen here, everybody in the Argyle Life community, a very happy Christmas and a very happy New Year. We will be back next week with a show. I won't be here. I'm heading north for the weekend for a much needed break. So somebody will be here next week with 3 other faces. So do join us for the post Doncaster victory podcast. But from all of us at Argyle Life, we will wish you a very good evening. And well, I said the other week, keep on smiling, because the light will eventually appear at the end of the tunnel. The light's getting closer. Night all.
Good night.
No.